Luciano. I live and work in Dublin, in Ireland, where I work for a company called Vectra. Vectra is a company that is focused on basically using machine learning to be able to detect in real time threats on the networks. So basically we can figure out if, I don't know, for example, somebody says filtrating data on a corporate network very easily. So this is the kind of problem space that I'm in. I'm specifically work mostly in the cloud, so I'm building solutions that can be supportive for people that receive those sorts of network incidents and they have to deal with them, and they maybe want to figure out a lot more of what was happening in the network when this happened. And so they can do queries, then they can navigate through a lot of data. So this is the kind of problem space I work in. This is not my first time at Codemotion. I think at this point I lost the count. Probably is the 6th time or 7th, I don't know. So I really enjoy being here, both in Milan and Rome. And this year I really enjoyed the new location in Milan. I think it's one of the best places that Codemotion ever used to create this kind of event. Also, I think that's something usual instead, that there is always a very high quality of speakers and topics. So it's always a good moment for me to learn again, know what are the new trends and the new technologies that are maybe interesting to start to investigate and learn. So yeah, that was probably a big part of my talk today. But if I should try to summarize it, so basically one of the things that you have with serverless is that you get a lot of things for free, because AWS is taking care, or any other, of course, cloud providers that gives you serverless, they take care of all the infrastructure. So you don't have to think about machines, what type of operative systems, how do I make sure there is enough connectivity, that, I don't know, all the systems are updated. So all this kind of common concern that we always had before, serverless. So you can focus a lot more on your business logic and on your application. Of course, it's not magic. So in order for the cloud provider to give you an abstraction, they have to give you some limitations as well, so that you don't abuse of the system. And one of the limitations, for example, is that you have a limited maximum time for computation. So everything is a function. You define the code as a function, you receive an event, your function is triggered, and then you have to calculate a response. And in the case of AWS, you can calculate for up to 5 minutes, and this limit has been recently increased to 15 minutes. And for us, this was a problem initially, because we designed our solution, our big data pipeline, in a way that you can process arbitrarily big files. And at some point, we were getting like huge gigabytes files, and we were not able to process them in 5 minutes. So that's, for example, some challenge you have to take into account when using serverless for big data. But I think there are a lot more, and yeah, we can talk about this forever. Yeah, so again, I think the main advantage that you get with serverless is that since a lot of concerns are removed from you and from your team, you can focus a lot more on business logic, giving back value to your customers, solving problems, rather than just putting on all the infrastructure that you need just to run some code in the cloud. So that's probably, I think, the best benefit. But there are other ones. For example, in terms of cost, most of the time, or at least in most of the use cases, running on serverless is cheaper than running on normal virtual machines. And this is because you only pay for the amount of time you are actually computing. So for example, if you have a service that has maybe some spikes through the day, but most of the day is not even used, with a common virtual machine approach, you will be paying for that service all the day, while with serverless, you only pay for the amount of time you are actually using that service. So in that sense, this is another very good advantage. So yeah, I've been doing Node.js development for probably about 4 or 5 years now. And I've seen a very big evolution of JavaScript, first of all, on which Node.js is based, but also all the Node.js community. I felt like it matured a lot in the last few years. For example, they created a lot more community events, they created a lot more documentation, there are a lot more shared best practices, there are a lot more modules. And one of the most important things that is probably the focus right now is security. So there have been a number of security incidents in probably every technology and every context, but of course also in Node.js. So the community is actually trying to figure out new ways to deal with those type of security incidents, how to make every developer more confident in the platform, and make sure that every company can get the best out of Node.js without having to worry too much about security. So that's, I think, one of the spaces that the community will spend a lot of time in the near future. Well, first of all, I don't know if I have to consider my book successful, but thank you for saying that. I'm anyway very proud of the book. I think it came out as a very good manual to explore all the most common design patterns from what you will study in computer science, maybe in Java or C++. And sometimes if you want to apply the same design pattern in Node.js, they don't match one-to-one, so you have to do something different. And the reason is because the runtime, the JavaScript runtime, which is used in Node.js, is based on events, and there is this idea of asynchronous code. So sometimes when you deal with callbacks, or maybe promises, or maybe async await, those design patterns have to be implemented in a slightly different way. So I think the book tries to explain how to transition from a mindset that is more maybe procedural from Java to something that is more based on asynchronous event, and how to implement the same patterns.